There we go. We got a video in.
Welcome to New York. How big involvement in college helped launch Murrow alums to the Big Apple. Join us for an enlightening discussion as we explore the pivotal role of student experiential learning in shaping the next generation of leaders in PR, advertising, production, and news. Our panel of accomplished professionals will share their insights, experiences, and expertise, highlighting the transformative impact of hands-on learning opportunities. This session is moderated by Murrow alum Lance Lee Lejewski. Lance is a digital marketing and photography expert, specializing in small to medium-sized restaurants, bars, and cafes. While Lance has lived and worked across 5 states in the last 10 years, he has returned to Pullman and has built a successful reputation working with regional businesses, including business network Coug First, James Beard Award-nominated Black Cypress, the historic Cougar Cottage, college student favorite Emporium, and a diverse network of other businesses between Washington and Idaho. Please welcome Lance.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Yep, sweet. I'm really excited for this morning with Welcome to New York. I went to school with several of the people on this panel, as well as some of them being my closest friends. So we're going to keep the conversation really casual today and relaxed. We're going to start with shortly them giving bios on themselves, so you know where they're at, what they're doing. And then the core focus of what we're talking about this morning is how them being so involved in school really helped shape their careers as well as their college experience. It's something that I did as well and was really valuable to me. So I'm really excited for you guys to hear where they're at, what they're doing, and how being in the same seats as you guys a few years ago got them to where they're at today. All right, so we're gonna start with their bios, and I'm gonna start with those live streaming in to make sure that we're dialed in. So we'll begin with Meghann, then go to Jake, and then Cameron and Kat. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves, that'd be great.
Perfect. Can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. So it's nice to see you all. My name is Meghann Cherzan, and I graduated in 2018 from the Murrow College of Communication. I have held a number of roles, but my current role is the Associate Director of Communication at JASA. JASA stands for the Jewish Association Serving the Aging. So my job is I get to work with the elderly and the aging of New York City. I lead a lot of different programs. I also am the lead strategic communications officer when it comes to the initiatives and community partnerships. I also have a diverse background in event planning and corporate communications. And yeah, I would not be here without Murrow.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Jake Sirianni. I graduated in 2018, so about 6 or so years ago. I'm currently, obviously, living in New York City. I work for a company called Mustache Agency. We are owned by Edelman PR, which is a big corporate overlord of public relations. So yeah, we're down in Lower Manhattan. I work as a video editor and motion graphics designer. So we work for clients like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu. One of the most fun projects I got to work on recently, we cut season 3 of Most Expensivest with 2 Chainz. So I got to kind of get my feet wet in some TV editing, which was really fun. While I was at WSU, I was involved with Cable A Productions, which is probably just the best experience I could have ever asked for. Outside of work, I like freelancing for my favorite bands, just kind of reaching out and being like, hey, you need some music videos or motion graphic stuff. And sometimes they respond, which is really fun. And I also like going on long walks. The most recent one was 40 miles to Olive Garden. It took 17 hours. It was a blast.
Hi everyone, my name's Cameron. I'm gonna hope this is on, and if not, you guys can probably hear me. Hi Jay, good to see you. So hi everyone, my name's Cameron. I graduated 3 years ago. Pretty recently, I worked for NBC Nightly News. I recently actually just moved to NBC News Now just a couple weeks ago. So Sarah, news to you. But yeah, it's been an absolute great time working in 30 Rock. I can't say enough how my time at Murrow really helped me get over there. Oh, there it is. And it's been an absolutely fantastic time. I do anything from cutting video to help write scripts to scouting locations, doing MOS, shoot graphics, you name it. Probably have put my hand in it at least once. So it's been a great time, and yeah, happy to be here. Also, my man with the hair, you're absolutely killing it. I just want to let you know, you look fantastic. Yeah, no, you look fantastic. I told her earlier, you look great, man. Just like you.
My name is Katherine Varner. I graduated here in 2019, actually with a public relations degree, and I ended up producing television news. Currently, I work at Fox 5 New York. That's the Fox local station. I am the producer of the weekend 10 o'clock news, and then I write, segment, produce, and fill in on weekdays. So for the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. Really, my trajectory was kind of based off of what I did outside of the classroom. I was the president of KUGR. I was a Murrow ambassador. I was marketing manager at KGEM and also an associate producer at Northwest Public Broadcasting. So very excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Now that you guys know where they're at now, we're going to kind of work through things chronologically. Just keep it real simple. We'll have them talk right now about where you guys started, because I know college is way different than what life is like now. And not everybody always lands where they anticipate by the end of college. So I would love to hear from you guys, like what you were anticipating when you came to WSU and how you kind of found your way into the media world or your interest in media. Start there. And we will start with Meghann and go the same way. Meghann, Jake, Cameron, Kat.
Awesome. Great question, Lance. So I am definitely in that group of folks who I had no idea what I was going to do. I thought I was going to do broadcast, and I ended up kind of circling more towards event planning by the end, even though that's not necessarily a degree at WSU. So little bit about my journey is I entered in the fall of 2014 with my eyes set on broadcast. And it wasn't anything from classes. It was more of the political landscape at the time that kind of changed my trajectory. I was heavily involved throughout all 4 years with ASWSU, eventually SEB, and then also Greek Life, which was another thing I was not anticipating on joining, but ended up really helping hone my skills and my passion for philanthropy. And that's kind of what drove my interest in working for a nonprofit. I also got a internship with the Whitman County Gazette in Colfax, for those of you who have not heard of it. Very small circulation, but it was one of the best opportunities that I could have taken advantage of. So if you are in the position of being a freshman, sophomore, or even a junior, I would highly recommend looking for internships locally in Pullman and Colfax, because working at the Gazette, I got to know the community more. It made me fall in love with Pullman more than I already loved it. And it really helped me apply what I was learning in my classes, hint, hint, Comp 300, and see how that applied in the real world. After that, I actually worked at Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories as the corporate communications intern for almost a year. I worked on community outreach events because, again, I love the Pullman community, and it's definitely a place I still would like to call home. I assisted with the event planning for Schweitzer, as well as helping with day-to-day activities and working with PR, that type of thing. I then was hired by Schweitzer in 2018, right as I was graduating, and I was hired as the event coordinator. So I kind of was more interested in the event side and also public relations, just because I like working with people. I like finding a common goal and, helping them achieve exactly what they're looking for. And so it's a little bit different, but it's still something that I find a lot of passion and pleasure in. I worked at Schweitzer until February of 2020. And as we all know, the world shut down a month later. I also was helping with the land, and that's where my good friend Lance and we were working together for a short time. And we were planning and directing some smaller events that we were hoping to see take off the ground, but COVID had other plans. And a little bit more on a personal side about my background. I met my husband at WSU in my undergrad, He was attending. He's a couple years older than me, and he was in the vet school. He is actually the reason why we're here in New York. And we were going to move to San Diego. That was our next step for his career path. And I ended up going into leasing and concierge management for a luxury apartment complex. So I was leasing, and then I also got to dabble with events, marketing, advertising, public relations for that company. So you never really know where your experience is going to take you. And then fast forward 2 more years, here I am in New York City, working as the Associate Director of Communications for a nonprofit. So your journey is never just a straight line. You're going to bounce around, and there's going to be bumps in the road. And I promise you're going to get where you need to go, and it will be okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Meghann. Before I start, wide shot, would you mind just zooming out a little bit? I want to see raise your hand really quick if you're a freshman. I'd just like to poll the room. Raise your hand if you're a sophomore. Raise your hand if you're a junior. And raise your hand if you're a senior. I was kind of like to know who I'm talking to. Sweet. Okay, we got a good little group of people here. That's awesome. I started this whole journey with media production probably in like the 4th or 5th grade. I'd always just like grab a camera and Windows Movie Maker, if anyone remembers good old Windows Movie Maker, and just like make little silly videos. And so continued that through middle school and high school and then into college. When I got to WSU, I had a dream of working for like Saturday Night Live. I always watched the show and always thought that it was just the coolest thing ever, being able to make people laugh for a job. That's really, really cool. And so when I got to WSU, I instantly found Cable 8 Productions and got involved there. So my freshman year, I started as like an assistant director on a comedy show. And then later that year, I became a director of the same comedy show. My sophomore year, I became an RA, which is not Murrow related, but I was the snitch on the floor. No, that was weird. No, it was a great job. I did that my sophomore and my junior year. And I continued with Cable 8. I did 2 satirical comedy shows, just made a bunch of buddies and had a lot of fun doing that. If you take anything from the words I say today, just join an extracurricular. They're really fun and you get to make a really cool group of friends. My junior year, I became the president of Cable 8 Productions, and that was the year I started thinking a little bit more about internships. The summer before, I had done an internship down in Burbank, California. Got my feet wet in post-production for the first time professionally. I interned at a trailer house. And so I'd grab coffee, a lot of kind of chores, but it was really fun kind of earning some stripes. Also through a Cougar alum, Mike Harney, who's the absolute best. I got to it wasn't really an internship. I got to help out on set with Howie Mandel. So got to hang out around him a little bit, which was really fun. And then at nights, I would go to just like improv shows. I did Improv 101 and 201, learned I wasn't great at improv, but it was a fantastic lesson in just learning about yourself. And so that was really, really fun. My junior year, Cable 8 Productions president, RA again. And then I made this intern video for a shot at the Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, an internship with them, which was really fun. It worked. And then that was my first time living in New York City, which was, as is the theme of this talk today, it was a bit of a transition. It was a little bit to transition to. Working at the Tonight Show was an absolute dream come true, a dream and a half, man, oh man. So I was there for 3 months, made a lot of good buddies, and Jimmy is very nice. Then my senior year came back, was president of Cable 8 again. Just had a lot of fun, a lot of good memories. Applied for the NBC page position, did not get the job, and then eventually applied to the company I'm at right now. I started as an intern and then became an assistant editor, and now I'm a video editor, motion graphics guy. And yeah, it's been about 6 years at the same company. And yeah, it's a good time.
Okay, so I like recently graduated, so I don't got as much of a backstory. But what I do have, when I got here, I was actually coming in as a freshman during Jake's senior year. He got me hooked on Cable 8, and I was like, okay, this has got to be it. This is something I love doing. On top. And I absolutely loved it. It was a great time. I also loved making people laugh. That was kind of what I was shooting for. I always wanted to do entertainment. I always wanted to do comedy. Did it work? No, but here we are. It was something I was shooting for, just like Jake. And so while I was here, I did quite a few shows through Cable 8. I got super involved in different areas. I even had a show with KGR at one point. 8 in the morning on a Saturday. Don't do that, man. It was snowing. It was god awful. Nobody listened at any point. So we just talked about nothing, and those radio silence for about 2 hours. It was great. Then after that, I got super involved again in Cable 8, became a director, from talent to a director, then director to like VP of TV, and really just got into the nitty gritty. So shooting, editing, the whole nine. Bless you. And when I was outside of that, for Com 465, I believe, I took that course and then I became a TA for it. Shout out Matt for letting me be a TA during COVID. So it was a whole different time altogether. So it was a little bit tricky at times, but it helped you get used to, okay, how do I shoot? How do I be creative with these things? And then with Cable 8, I was editing with Premiere. And that helped a lot for Com 465. Just shout out for that. I did a few internships during my time here. I had one in New York, down in Soho, at a casting company. The casting company was not great. We had about like 6 people that came in every day, but it was a good time, just like get used to the area, to get acclimated. I lived in Jersey, so I had about a 2-hour commute in every single day. And it teaches you a lot about yourself. You don't know how many podcasts you can listen to, but I listened to a lot, just going back and forth. So then after I came back here, I knew that entertainment was something I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it because it's a jump. So come senior year, I took another internship, but this one was remote. It was with some script company down in LA. The guy was just rewriting different movies. He wrote Jurassic Park and said dinosaurs, it was tigers, and he called it Tiger Mania. And he's like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And I was like, Joe, this is just Jurassic Park, man. Like there's the exact same plot lines. Everything's the same here. He's like, all right, that's not good, but I'll take it. Never made any of those. And then I figured, okay, when I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go into local journalism. I figured that was probably gonna be the route. I wasn't sure exactly where I was gonna go. I put out a whole bunch of feelers. So I had some offers down in Reno, Pennsylvania, and Dallas. I had a couple offers. And then I heard about this unique opportunity to moderate a panel with Lester Holt. And I was like, yeah, no, I want to do that. How the heck do I get to do that? So I bothered Sarah to no end. And then I bothered, okay, didn't have to agree that loud. I even bothered the dean about it. And I was just like, I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him. How do I get to talk to him? They let me talk to him. It was a great time. I was able to stay in contact with him after the panel. And after he accepted the award. And then I knew, okay, hold on, this could maybe lead into something, and this would be national. Local's amazing, don't get me wrong, but national doesn't come very often, and this is something I don't want to pass up. So when the opportunity came around, their team told me to apply for the job. I said, of course I will. And I think it was about 6 months post-grad, I got the job. It took forever though, good God. I just sat in my living room a lot every day on my phone, just like, okay, did I get it? Did I get it? Did I get it? Never did. But I mean, eventually it happened. And I moved straight to New York and moved up to the Upper East Side / Harlem, and have been there ever since. And it's been an absolute great time. Been there, what, 2 years now? Two and a half. It's been nuts. But yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question, but I hope it does. All right, thumbs up.
My journey to where I am now definitely began when I was a kid. I danced competitively. I would go and dance at Disneyland. I grew up in California. And I've always been involved in some sort of production and creating some sort of piece of content for people to watch. And knowing that when I was coming to WSU, I knew I wanted to create something for people to listen to something for people to enjoy. And when I got here, my whole thought was, I want to be a disc jockey at K-Rock Los Angeles. That was like my whole goal. I wanted to be someone who interviewed musicians and talk to them about the work that they're creating. And that's what really led me to go to KUGR. It was definitely a place where anything goes. You could do anything. You could, have a 2-hour time slot and just read a book if you really wanted to. And it really shaped me in the sense that I took it anywhere. I started interviewing musicians. I started interviewing indie bands who were here in Pullman. And then that eventually led to going up to Spokane and interviewing people who were much more well-known, photographing them. In that time I did Arctic Monkeys, Hippocampus, Mattis Yahoo, Dua Lipa. And there was a true love of telling their story. And from KUGR, my love for radio, I then started interning with Northwest Public Broadcasting. And some of my mentors I've been able to see here since coming back. Tom Cocaine over there, one of them. Thank you for coming. So I was an associate producer for him, writing stories, writing scripts for him. And that's really where I learned the foundational basis for what I do currently. What's the story? What's the top headline? What do people care about? And even though I have a public relations degree, when I was about to graduate, I was applying basically for everything under the sun. Crisis communication, public relations, television. And I ended up in television because that was really the experience I had. I was doing broadcasts. One of my friends actually introduced me to Jeff Height back there, KHQ Nonstop Local News. And that's where my career began. I was originally brought on as a digital producer because I'd never produced a show before. I never took the television class here. And basically just being in that environment and seeing people do that type of job is how I learned it. They told me, the news director at the time told me, you have the building blocks. We just have to teach you and hand you those instructions on how to build a show. So I was at KHQ for about 2.5 years. And in my last 8 months of KHQ, I knew I wanted to go to New York City. So I started applying for jobs, not only in New York, but also in other parts of the country. And I was getting these entry-level jobs in New York City, but I already had 2.5 years of experience. So I didn't want to do that. And I had 8 job offers, and I looked at them and said, which of these job offers is going to get me to New York City, even though it's not currently in that location? And that job happened to be Fox 13 Seattle. They're an O&O owned by Fox, and I knew I'd be able to transfer into New York at some point. So I was there for about 1.5 years producing the 4, 5, and 6 p.m. news, line producing. Me and one of my coworkers kind of rotated producing 3 hours of news together. And then that New York job finally popped that I wanted. And I thankfully had a great mentor there in Seattle who highly recommended me to the news director in New York City. And that's how I landed that job. I've been there for about 1 year. It'll be 1 year and 3 weeks. So they say if you can survive your first year in New York City, you can do anything.
Hell yeah. I love that you guys all have like wildly different trajectories to where you guys got today, but like the common thread that I've noticed is the relationships and the extracurriculars and the jobs and all of those things. And being at WSU is really neat, or being in college in general is really neat because it's a community that's fostering those relationships and offering those extra opportunities. It's a lot harder once you get out of school, which I know you guys have experienced the last few years, and as you transitioned out from your senior year. I love, Jake, that you pulled the room. Thank you. Because now that I know there's a ton of seniors, I'm going to ask you guys to give your younger selves, like your senior selves, advice on what to be doing now and kind of how to leverage those relationships and experience as you transition out of college. Because that first year or several years out can be really tough depending where you go and what you're trying to do. And you all have landed somewhere where you guys are happy and successful to a degree, and you can give advice now on how to get there in some general capacity. We'll start with you, Meghann.
Awesome. I think, this is off the top of my head, but I think the most important one is staying in touch with your advisors, with your professors, and with your classmates. Really making sure that you're fostering connections and friendships and relationships, whether you need a job, like a letter of recommendation. I know that I still stay in touch with a good chunk of my classmates from all different classes within Murrow and beyond. And it's really nice to have that kind of them in the background, but then also have them there in the forefront of my life as friends. A couple of my friends who were in Murrow and also outside of Murrow, they also live here in New York, and I truly knew nobody before I moved here. I was able to connect with them, and they were able to, help me find my footing and really enjoy the city. But yeah, that's kind of my advice is foster those relationships and connections.
I would recommend not being afraid to start small. It's really easy to, right after you graduate, have this this dream. Obviously, we all have dreams, but don't be afraid to start as an intern or start as an assistant, because eventually, once you do kind of rise in the ranks, you'll be able to look back on that process. And kind of piggybacking off of that, do somehow document like those first couple years outside of college, because eventually when you do have the job that you've always wanted, it's always kind of a little bit more fun to look back at the struggle. I did this project called the 1 second a day. I've been doing it for like 7 or 8 years, where you just take like a couple of videos throughout the day, and then I reduce it down to 1 second per day. It's 365 seconds. And something that really I just really enjoy looking back on is how hard the first couple of years outside of college were. Because now I do have a little bit more of a stable setup. But looking back on June 2018 through probably December 2019, it just took a lot of time. And by documenting that process, it makes the present much more sweeter. And so, yeah. Just also just take care of yourself.
What I'd probably tell myself if I was a senior right now is don't be afraid of no. The worst they can say is no. I shot my shot so many times on LinkedIn. I would just cold DM people on LinkedIn. I don't know how many people I reached out to, but you get lucky with the people who do sometimes reach back. I actually connected with the director of the Tonight Show, believe it or not. He messaged me back and we talked for like a couple of months just about experience. I sent him my reel. He saw it. We talked about it. And that wouldn't have happened if I was just too nervous to send that email or send that text. Don't be too pushy. There was a guy from The Daily Show I did piss off. I won't lie to you. I sent him like 4 emails in the span of 2 days. And he was like, bro, stop. Like, you got to stop reaching out. We're done. And I was like, you're right. That's on me. My bad. Lesson learned. But yeah, don't be afraid of no. And kind of like what Kat said, if you can survive the first year, you can do anything. The first year is really hard. That's just part of it. I'm still getting used to it. I'm still getting out of it. But that first year post grad, you don't have this kind of room of friends. You don't have this kind of environment. And you really got to want it. You got to push for it every single day. And it's tough, but you got to keep fighting. My parents always told me resilience, resilience, resilience. Just stay strong. You got more in you than you think you do. And you don't think you do, but you do. And that was something that I didn't learn for a long time. But I think senior me should have heard that way earlier because yeah, there's struggle. Like Jake said, you kind of look back and you see the struggle and you kind of laugh at it a little bit. You're like, oh, what the heck was I all upset about? But it's worth it in the end. So just keep pushing. And don't be afraid of no, cast your net wide and just go for it.
I think I tell myself, don't be afraid to take a job maybe that you don't want. When I was a senior and I had my job offer in Spokane, I had that opportunity for a full-time real job or to go intern at Ticketmaster in their content and marketing department. And I really wanted to do the Ticketmaster, but I was like, should I do Ticketmaster? It's an internship versus taking a real job. And I decided obviously to take the full-time job. And even though it wasn't something at the time I necessarily wanted to do, it was the best decision I ever made. Starting small is, I think, very important. I think it gives you a lot of perspective. Something very interesting that I've learned being in New York is the newsroom that I'm in. Almost every single person I work with is born and raised in New York, went to school in New York, and New York City is the only city they've ever worked in. And I think that creates this edge for myself when I'm in an editorial meeting and I can talk about rivers cresting because I have understanding of like what that means when something's flooding because I worked in Seattle, or New York City was inundated with wildfire smoke for the first time ever from wildfires in Canada. And I'm in this editorial meeting with people who have never experienced something like that ever before their entire life. And I was able to bring all these new type of story ideas and content ideas and where maybe we should be looking for information to make ourselves stand out and look different. So starting small, I think, is important, and very much looking back on where you came from and kind of pulling from those experiences as a student, even if you're in high school, maybe the things that you did previously that you might think doesn't even involve communication, but it does. Everything involves communication, and you can pull from those experiences and get yourself to where you want to be currently.
With that, is there something you guys do in your everyday life to manage kind of the work-life balance now that you're out of school? Because I know the school life balance is really difficult to accomplish, and every day we struggle with that in school, and then going into the real world is a whole another beast to try and tackle. But the workload you guys are handling and the creative that you guys are accomplishing obviously needs a little bit of tact behind the scenes. So I would love to hear from you guys before we switch into a Q&A from you guys, what you do to handle that, what you do to balance your work life or counterbalance if it's not a balancing act. Meghann.
Yeah, great question. So I'll start a little bit back and then I'll go to today. So when I moved to San Diego in June of 2020, it was crazy because we didn't know anyone. It was COVID. We couldn't talk to really any of our neighbors because everyone was really keeping it close. And so something that I started to do, because I have a dog, her name's Poppy. She's the love of my life other than my husband. And I take her on walks. And as simple as that sounds, it's taking her on walks just to get out of the house, to unplug and get myself away from screens, is something that I have come to really love. Jake, I don't think I'll ever join you on one of your 40-mile walks. As great as that sounds, good for you. But I think getting outside, and now that I live in New York, which is completely different than San Diego and living by the bay where I did, I still go for walks. We live the east side, almost Upper East Side, and so I walk by the river. Another thing that really helps me kind of decompress and de-stress, and it's going to make me sound like an old lady, is I crochet. It's something that makes me, not look at a screen, and I am able to use my hands to do it. I really like meeting up with other friends and talking, just talking to people. I know that's something that all of us, it's really hard for us to do as communication majors. We don't like to talk to people. But coffee and chatting with friends is also a great way. But then just getting involved in anything that you might find in your community. I know I joined a few different volunteer groups when I lived in San Diego. I did some beach cleanups. That was another thing that I did because I also have a passion for the environment, and just making sure we take care of it. So simple as walking, drinking coffee, meeting with friends, and crocheting. That's what I have to say.
I keep a to-do list, pretty simple. I'm actually going to cross off Murrow Symposium right here. And then just doing fun stuff. There's plenty of stuff to do here. This last weekend, my wife and I and a couple of friends went to the taping of Saturday Night Live. That was really fun. And so, yeah, just have fun.
I will go on a long walk with you, Jake, by the way. We're going to set it up. We're going to go to Olive Garden. Yeah. So a couple of things that I did. So when I was here, I worked a lot. I was involved in a lot. I was president of Murrow Ambassadors. I was an RA. I was the manager at the Rec, the fact man over there. I was the president of Stand Up Comedy Club. Nobody attended, so it was real short meetings, but it was good. And then I was a TA as well as a student. And then I had a side job as well, where I was making videos for underprivileged kids in different areas of the country, just like how to apply to college and et cetera. So when I left here, I thought, oh, I'm going to have so much free time. I'm not working 6 jobs anymore. I'm just working 1. This is going to be so easy. Psych, life lied to me. It's just as hard. And all the free time that you thought you had goes into 1 job. And now this is it. When I got there, I remember I would call my parents and be like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. My entire day is gone. I'd show up at 9 a.m. I wouldn't leave until about 8:39 in the evening. Go home, try to make dinner, and then rinse, repeat. So what I started doing afterwards, I started going to the gym in the morning. That was my first thing. I start off, get up at 6:30, knock it out. And then when that wasn't doing the same thing that I thought it was, I started therapy. And therapy really helped me a lot. I was in therapy for probably 8 months, 6 months, somewhere in there. And that helped a lot, just clear my head because I could just talk to somebody and just let it all out. And then baking. I love baking. So that was something I also do on the side. And so it's just cooking at night. That's just my relaxation time. I'll throw on a podcast, listen to some jazz, and just make food. And so the stress kind of moved in a different direction. Instead of it being, oh my gosh, life is so hectic, it's okay, well, how do I carve out time for me? And making that time for yourself. Weekends are so important. Just go for walks. I used to pick an avenue and start from the top of Manhattan and walk all the way down to the bottom. And that was just a way for me to clear my head. And it helped so much. So therapy, gym, cooking, you name it. It helps a lot. So take care of yourself. That's really the number one thing.
One of my hobbies is still photography, and there's just so much to capture in New York City. The list just honestly keeps growing. So I love going out and photographing landscapes, architecture. That's definitely a new type of photography that I'm working on kind of developing, because mostly I've done events, concerts, weddings. So that's been a lot of fun. I've also picked up birding a little bit. So I go into Central Park, go chase around the owls and the birds, kind of learn about them. There's some very, very serious people in the city with these insane lenses that's all they do is they go around and they chase the birds. I also picked up running. I've never been a runner before. If I told myself when I was 19 that I would be training for my first half marathon, I would say you're absolutely crazy. There's no way you're running a half marathon. So I'm doing that actually next month. And then there's so much to do in New York City. There's always something going on, whether that's a new restaurant, whether that's a show. Something else I love to do is host people. So I host dinner parties. I love having people over, and almost everyone who comes over works in news. I know someone almost at every single station in the entire city. Now I got to work on meeting people who work in print. I don't know anyone who works in the print industry in New York City, but things like that's a lot of fun. And it's really great to get people from other newsrooms in the same room for all of us to kind of discuss and share our different ideas and different thoughts on stories, and maybe things that one person noticed and other people didn't. So that's been kind of how I've created that work-life balance.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for answering those questions and talking about your background a little bit. We're going to switch to a Q&A now. We got about 10 minutes for you guys to ask questions, just really pointed stuff that's relevant to you guys. We're going to pass this mic around, and maybe we'll get 3 or 4 questions. Who would like to ask a question?
Yes, the financial aspect of moving to a big city like San Diego or New York or LA is always kind of a big stressor for me. So if you guys have any insight on kind of whether or not have a side hustle or kind of things to get around that.
Who would like to answer that? I'll open this to all you guys.
I can start. So am I on? We're all good?
He is.
Lovely. Yeah, exactly what you said. Have a side hustle. When I first moved here, I was sleeping on my dad's cousin's friend's mom's couch for the summer. I was house sitting. She was up in Vermont or something. And so, yeah, that was that helped out initially. But yeah, currently I'm freelancing for maybe 4 or 5 different clients, whether they're bands. I just wrapped up on a bunch of diabetes social spots. So very poignant Emmy, Oscar award-winning content there. But yeah, always just have something in the back burner because it's a very costly city. Yeah.
I can go next. So it's definitely something, I mean, Jake, yeah, you said it best. I mean, it's a costly city. I'm in a unique position because housing is kind of subsidized through my husband's work at the Animal Medical Center of the hospital that he works at. But there are definitely, you can definitely make it work. We have friends who don't have housing like near us, and they were able to find great spots. I mean, you can reach out to us, even like some of us may know people who either have an apartment or a sublet or something. There's always opportunities to try and find housing that's available near you. But I would definitely just try to reach out, and even if you see a connection like on LinkedIn, or you have it's a friend of a friend, always just try to use those resources. As far as the rest of it goes, I mean, you kind of just have to have a budget. Unfortunately, I know as grown up and boring as that sounds, just to make sure that you're having a good time, but you're also, able to take care of yourself. So that's kind of what I recommend.
Definitely budget. Yeah. I flipped sneakers. That was my side hustle for a while. Not a joke. Anyways, yeah, no, that's what I did for like probably in college, then out of it, I flipped sneakers. So I made like money in a side hustle like that, but it's tough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's definitely like an uphill journey. You learn how to budget though. And you work overtime if you need to. Sometimes you just kind of, all right, cool. I can put in another like 3 hours if I need to and burn, the late night oil, whatever. But it proves, pays off in the end. But yeah, just keep working at it, and you can budget and you can find workarounds for sure.
I think my big thing to say is save money, save every dime, save every penny. Apartments in the city are just incredibly expensive, especially when you're getting a new one. There's broker's fees for even apartments that you rent. So you have to write a couple $1,000 check to these people, and you have to be able to have that cash to give to them. So save if you want to come to New York.
One last note, I will mention, sorry, just one thing. Don't bring a car. I've had a few friends. You do not need a car. I promise. I loved my car. It is not worth the $700 a month for insurance, on top of potentially having, $1,000 for a parking spot in a parking garage. So you will learn to walk. You got cougar cabs already. You're totally fine.
Wow, $1,000 for a parking spot. That's abhorrent. But my name's Logan. I have a question specifically for Meghann, but I would love to hear what anyone else says. Also, Jake, I love mustache. You guys do great work. I'm an executive director on SEB. I have been for the last 2 years, and I was on the committees before that. How would you say that you can leverage event experience? I'm also a media production and journalism major. How would you say you can leverage event experience into creating sort of like showing that you have a good place to come to look at like consumer prospects and market prospects, from seeing the event side, like the physical marketing side, to also combining that with like digital marketing proficiency?
Yeah, definitely. Congrats, by the way, on the position. SEB is great. My husband also was on SEB, and it was a great spot for us. So I would say with events, I mean, with that experience that you have, you're going to be able to go into any interview or any career knowing that you have reached out and worked with so many different groups. I mean, you know not only how to plan the event, you know who is going to be asking. And so I would definitely just go into any interview confident, knowing that. Also, it applies to every job. It's maybe not necessarily with like broadcast, but you can use event planning for any position. Because it doesn't have to just be like a huge event like Springfest or something like that. You can use it for, I mean, just even inter office meetings. You're able to use it for your, I mean, yeah, I don't know what I just think event planning is one of the most necessary skills to have, because you can use it on any platform. For example, when I got into this role as associate director, it was a new role for the organization, and I planned an art show. That was one of the things that we did. So I went around to all 5 boroughs and collected over 400 pieces of artwork last year, and close to 500 pieces of artwork this year that was made by our seniors. And we then curated the art down to about 180 to 250 we had 180 last year, we had 250 this year. And then we put on an art show for a fundraising event for our donors and trustees. So it kind of takes you in all different directions. I don't do like development and fundraising, but that's how I was able to kind of leverage my skills as an event planner in this position. And then going back to when I was working in leasing and property management, another area I thought I never would be in, I was doing resident events. So even though that wasn't explicitly in my job description, I got to help curate some really cool events that also translated into marketing opportunities that then brought in customers to, you know, come for a tour, sign leases, that type of thing. So I hope that answered your question.
All right, we've got one more question. We've got about 4 minutes before you guys head out. Before this last question, can we all give everybody a round of applause? Opportunities for you guys to talk.
Hi, my name is Morgan. I am a broadcast news major. I'm also a senior and I'm a transfer. And because I'm a transfer, I didn't have as much time here at WSU to get involved in all the various clubs we offer. And if you're a freshman or a sophomore, get involved. You're here, you could do it, go out there and get it. But as a transfer with like kind of less of those backgrounds with those like clubs and stuff, I was wondering, what advice do you have for students who have transferred and might not have had as much time to do those clubs and networking, and what should you do beyond like the small market? Do you have any further advice on that?
Yeah, if you are coming in transfer or just haven't had the experience yet, I'm taking this out because I like want to talk in your direction. It's bothering me. If you haven't had a chance to do that yet, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just really dig in on what you have done so far and highlight those skills and those experiences. When I moved to NBC, a lot of the people I work with were pages, or they were interns, or they've been with the show in some way, shape, or form. And that's something I didn't have quite then. But when I hopped on, I was like, okay, I may not know the building backwards and forwards, and I may not have ever met Seth Meyers, but I do know how to shoot video. But I do know how to do this, this, and this. And I emphasized more on those skills instead of what I was lacking. It's just, okay, how do I really push forward what I do know? And if there's clubs here that I'm sure you can still join, like, I don't know if you are involved in Cable 8 or not, or KUGR or the Daily Evergreen, whatever you may be shooting for. Those are things that you can still, of course, get involved in and then do things on your own time. That's something that's also important. If you really want to, you know, exceed others, you got to really put in the effort. My dad had a thing, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So the harder you work at it and the more you really dig into it, the more likely you are to get there. But just emphasize the skills that you do have and really hone those, and the rest will come with. It's just a matter of time.
Awesome. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys for showing up. Again, please connect with our panelists. Please follow them on social. And you're good to go. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.